Hi. I'm just coming again about the website. Um, this time, the one true message of God.com, and also a certain battle.com and a certain myth.com. Um, and also as an SMMP, a social media MP, which I believe that we should all, perhaps those have an interest or feel they have something to say about the way our country is run, and for the benefits of the MPs that are trying to run our country. And we don't always have ability or funds or the time to become an MP ourselves, but we may have ideas that we want to support the government in question or support the opposition, um, or just for so that our community, our societies can go forward. Because I don't believe one man or even a group of men or women have all the answers, and if we allow access to all the ideas in the community and in the world, even, we can go forward, perhaps in a more positive way, a more constructive way, so that we can abolish these wars and this poverty that is throughout the world. Um, I just wanted to say, as an SMMP, social media MP, um, I have the websites that I mentioned, and I suggest that anybody else who does this, that they also have a website to put forward their ideas in writing as well as doing video clips like this. Um, that Mr. Cameron, he's put forward a proposal today, which he's going to put in action, that women that have come from other countries, be they Syria or otherwise, that they learn the English language, because it seems that immigrants have been here decades and still don't speak English. And I've often thought, being a resident in London for many years, that how can they integrate and how can they even function in England? If you can't read the notices in English, to where to put your rubbish out, or that you can't take your dog certain areas, or then that when they go to the doctor or something, the government then has to pay for translation services. And this is not quite fair on the taxpayer. I speak on behalf of the taxpayer to a certain extent, and I believe for the silent majority, I hope, and maybe the common sense view. Um, because sometimes I find even the media, although they do a very good job, they don't always put the the common sense view as well, or people like me anyway. I'm sitting here sometimes listening to them saying, but why don't you ask this? Or, what about this issue? For instance, on the radio today, they had two Muslim ladies speaking about this new proposal about the English language, and I think they were saying something along the lines, the discussion was, is that it was being linked to the terrorism issue, and that it was maybe contributing to the terrorism. I can't be 100% sure because I was only half listening to it. But the thing is, they didn't have an English person there, like me, saying, but my thought on this is that, yes, we're allowing some of you to come in and to paying your rent and paying your council tax, you know, and but there's something that you also have to contribute as well. That you have to make an effort to integrate into our system, and maybe um, be more flexible about or your religion, because or your way of life, because you've come from one country that is maybe now disintegrating because it's at war, or even before the war occurred. It's a case that it wasn't necessarily a rich country or a country that was free, and that had the sort of benefit systems that we have, which are only working because we all pay into it. We pay our taxes. Now you have Latin America, for instance. They don't pay their taxes so well because there's so much corruption there in the politicians and in the people. And then you haven't got this benefit system that will work because nobody's paying their taxes. And this happens, I think, in varying degrees throughout the world. It's the same with Africa. You've got corrupt leaders there, and quite a lot of cruelty, and you've got this situation where, because of the belief system and what the Catholic Church is doing, saying that you can't, the believers of the Catholic belief cannot have contraception, and then they have a lot of children, and then they can't afford them, and then the children are in poverty. So it's all very much linked. And I think even in England, whether you're an immigrant, refugee, or an immigrant, been here some years, or someone on the benefit system that's English, that if you're on the benefit system, you've got children already, but you don't then go on and have more children, because if you're on the benefits system, you can't afford them. You're expecting the taxpayer to pay for them, and you need to, have a be on contraception or of some sort, because I do believe it's a case that some purposely um, allow themselves to become pregnant, just to get on the benefit system or just to get more from the benefit system. And little by little, those who, we create the benefit systems, throughout Europe, I think, and there's varying degrees of these benefits, and I think England is probably one of the best, but not maybe the best. But it's the case that if we, as we've taken in more immigrants and people keep demanding more, it's like the pension credits, the SNP and the some of the Lords, House of Lords, and some of the Archbishop of Canterbury and the Pope, I believe, was saying, well, not the Pope necessarily, but the Archbishop of Canterbury saying that the pension credits, that proposal shouldn't have gone through, which it hasn't now. But the thing is, now we haven't got can't balance the books as well as what the Chancellor intended, so there have to be cuts elsewhere. And we're already getting cuts. For instance, now it's a case, I believe, that from now on, for new children being born, new families, only families up to 2 children will have the children's benefit, the child benefit. So that's gradually being eroded. Now it's a case I heard a couple of days ago that people that are maybe 45 or under, their pension is not going to be as good as the pensions those that are over 45. Now, gradually, all these demands that everybody is making, unfairly making, I think, sometimes, because as I say, people are not being reasonable, um, about the pension credits or about the austerity. And it's all very well to say, oh, no, austerity is not working. But the thing is, there's the basic common sense view that you have to balance the books. So, if we're in a family, if you're not bringing in enough money and spending more, you're going to get the creditors banging on your door, and you're going to lose your house, and you're not going to be able to pay your rent. So there has to be common sense on this, and so I'm pleased that Mr. Cameron has done this, and I'm pleased that he actually, under pressure, still only allowed an extra 10,000 more refugees in over this next 5 years, because we are still in austerity. And it's all very well for the Labour to say, and the SNP to say no more austerity measures, but we can see what has happened to Greece. They're on bankruptcy because they didn't have austerity measures. And as I say, you have to balance the books. You can't keep paying out if you're not bringing money in. And so there has to be common sense. And I appeal to the young people in particular, because you're the ones that are going to suffer, and you're the ones that can put things right. And I appeal to the young also to start, having a good understanding of the politics of our country, so that you can judge correctly, and make help make policies for your country and for yourself, so that there's fairness for you, and you have this protection that we have had very successfully, which was a Labour policy. This birth to the grave philosophy that you would be careful, you would have this buffer of benefit, and it's worked very well. But it won't work if people abuse it, be you immigrants or people already living here. And I just wanted to also say to the immigrants and to people on benefit, because there, as I've mentioned, that there have been refugees that have had having 6 or 7 children, and they're being given homes for this, and I presume they're being given child benefit for 6 or 7 children. And you if you come here, and the people that are English, we have to be take responsibility also. We have the benefit system, but we have to take responsibility and try and find work. Try and, you know, not have still, if you've got 7 children, it's enough. You need to, take contraception that is required to control the birth rate. And I think it's a case that soon, because we're 60 million here already, due in 10 years to maybe become 70 million, that we may also have to have something similar along the lines of China, where they only allowed one child per family. And maybe it should be a case that we should start restricting our families to 2 or 3 at the maximum. And yes, having benefit that they will only have benefit up to 2 children. And it may be the case that soon child benefits will be removed. And it's also a case that they say we have people in food banks, but how many people are actually um, managing their benefit and smoking, drinking, having pets and dogs, and then they go to a food bank? I've been on benefits, and you can live on it, but I don't have these luxuries of wine and having a pet and having extra children, or smoking and drinking and this sort of thing. You can't do it like that, and nor should we expect it. So I think my main point here is, as well, is that we all have our part to play, even when we're immigrants. We have to make the effort to learn the language, make the effort to find work, make the effort to restrict our families, make the effort to not keep demanding, oh, the government pay this and the government pay that, and don't take this from us and don't take that from us. Mr. Corbyn is actually saying now, concerning the Trident, um, you know, let us have the Trident then so that we preserve the jobs, but don't let them carry the nuclear missile. But what is the point of that? What do we need submarines in the oceans if it's not got a deterrent in it? You can't just keep people employed just for the sake of it, because that isn't practical. You have to move on. It's a little bit like with the steel industry. If the steel industry isn't going to be functional and can't be preserved, I don't know whether it can or not. We have to move on to other things. It's like the miners um, industry, the coal mines. We had nearly a year miners' strike, and we had 3-day week and electricity cuts, because the miners' union were demanding that they shouldn't close the mines, and yet coal was damaging the environment. And it was a case that these industries were no longer going to be viable, and weren't, and they had to be closed. So all of that 1 year trauma and all the lost costs were to no avail. And it's better for the people to know what the situation is, and to accept that that's what it is, and not to keep striking and costing more money, causing more damage to the community, but just realize that's the case, and just we're trying to ameliorate it, make it as little less as possible, give the people assistance, to find more work, or set up new industries in the area or similar, or help they move to other areas, because sometimes we can't always just live in the same area. We have to go to where the jobs are, or where the homes are. Life can't be perfect. We have to go and do what we need to do just to keep functioning. And it can't necessarily be that we can always stay where our friends are. We have to go and make new friends if that's where the jobs are. The crucial thing is that we were healthy, and that we have a work to do wherever that may take us. And I think we should stop making demands and expectations, whoever we are, um, because we're going to ruin our country and ruin ourselves in the process. So I just ask for all of the world, all of the community in England and the United Kingdom anyway, to start being a little more reasonable, um, and a little more um, understanding of everybody, and don't keep demanding money as rights. Let's be grateful that we have this buffer, but let's not take advantage of it. And let's start thinking, can I afford this? Not expecting the taxpayer to pay for it. And I just wanted to add that, I, as an English person living in England, obviously at one time I used to think the United Kingdom was all English, but due to the Scottish wanting to separate, I've become realised more that, I'm English, being in England, living in London, being born in Kent, and obviously Wales is Wales and Scotland is Scotland. And I find that with regard to the many refugees and the many different nationalities we have, even in our government now, um, I feel a little bit under siege by everybody, and that it's all about, uh, England allowing this person and that person in, and not to offending nation or culture or this religion or similar. And but the fact is that, whoever is here is in this country, and it is benefiting from the freedoms of this country that all the generations over, in England, have created for us. And I think there are many people, I've often heard over my life that people have travelled around, but they say the place they most want to be in is in England because of its freedoms. Um, that's not to say, I think we're any better than anybody else. It's just that I think our society is somehow, due to many other societies entering in, but basically from early on, this democracy was established through wars. It's true. But the thing is, when people come here, even those that have been here for some time, and as I say, that are in the parliaments, um, for instance, we had Baroness Vasi speaking, um, about, uh, this language, Muslim women who are coming over here to, that they might learn the English language if they're coming over here. Their husbands are here and they come over. That it's going to be imperative that they learn the English language, as money is being provided for that. And Baroness Vasi mentioned that, that she shouldn't feel it should be linked to the terrorism or something along those lines, and that, it shouldn't be just the Muslims, because there's many people that don't speak English. But the issue is we can't pay, again, you can't make it available for everybody, the cost for everybody, maybe, because again, we're in austerity. But the issue is now is that we've got, a problem with terrorism, and it is that focus we have to focus on. So I think when she is being, saying it's, yes, she's calling it lazy and sloppy of the Prime Minister, to put it forward in this way. I think that's rather derogatory, and it's not the only, she's not the only person. There's many others that, Mr. Corbyn or the SNP, the Scottish National Party leader, they're always very, derogatory at times, or at times derogatory to other politicians. And as Mr. Corbyn says, I don't think that should be happening. It would be nice if we were all focused on making the United Kingdom work, to resolve the issue about Europe, to resolve the issue about the terrorism, and to make, and that the world, and so that we also resolve the issues in the world, because all this attacking in between each other takes up time and energy, and there are too many major issues at stake here. I can see the world disintegrating into a terrorist environment, and that we're going to have these gunshot, attacks, be it in London and England at some point, as they've had throughout the world, and it will increase more and more if we don't get the issue of the religion under control, which as I've put on my websites. If you go onto the One True Message of God bettermethod.com. Initially, that will lead you to all the others and give you the basis. It's just one page, maybe take about 10 minutes to read, and there's more video clips there. Um, but if we keep being undermining each other when people are putting forward what I can see as a reasonable idea in this instance with the language, because even on one of the other website, certainbattle.com, I'd also mentioned that maybe we should in the world make it suggest that as a voluntary basis that all the world chooses English as a second language, not because I'm English, but because it's widely spoken already, and that so that we can communicate better, and so that all the world has access to the jobs. Because if everybody is speaking one language, then the jobs can be available in that language, and it doesn't matter if you're applying from Africa or applying from Australia or applying from Syria or Iran or Iraq. Everybody's got the opportunity to, and their talents are available to all the world. So so everybody keeps their own language, but we all have the second language as English. And maybe the English should also, there should be another second language that we should choose. Either we choose one, or we have one that is suggested to us, be it French or Spanish, because that's a widely known language as well. So I think we should maybe think along these lines, so that we gradually, over the space of the next generation or so, everybody speaks one language and can communicate in one language, which will assist in us becoming stronger as a unit in the world and dealing with the environmental issues as well as the terrorism. But just getting back to this issue, with Baroness Varsi and the SNP leader, and others that are of a different nationality, ultimately, even though they might be resident as English, is that each person who's of a different nationality, though living in England, there's a tendency for them to be focusing on representing their country, previous country, or the country of their birth. Or, for instance, like it's in Poland, the Prime Minister Cameron has been trying to negotiate that benefits won't be paid to immigrants that are unless they've been here 4 years, and the Polish were going to veto that, I believe, or at least spoke against it, because they felt this would affect their Polish community here, or Poles wanting to come here. Now they're just thinking about what's good for their community that's in England. Now you can't have that, because then who is controlling England and our laws and our benefits? It's and you've got a small community and a leader of a country afar sort of vetoing possibly something that is essential for us, because we're a small country, a small island, and there's a limit to what we can take here, and a limit to the taxes here. Now, Poland isn't as strong, I believe, as economy as England, and certainly probably hasn't had a benefit system. If they have one now, I presume they have one, but it's probably not as generous as ours, because they haven't, they've only recently come out of the Cold War scenario. So, as I say, I feel under siege as an English person, that everybody keeps making demands on us, and we keep saying accepting it and receiving it, and to the extent, one time I was of my father's generation. You only go on to benefit if you really need it. It's and you try every means of not going on benefit. It's dishonourable to go on benefit, but now everybody comes in and claims it, and is somehow clever if you claim benefit and somehow manage to work as well. And that seems to be the honourable thing. And I think we have to change this, and also the issue with the asylum seeking. Asylum, I think that has to be changed and maybe be removed, that there are rights to asylum seekers, because now everybody claims asylum, and that means they can claim benefit and can come into a country, and again we get this imbalance. Whereas, as I mentioned in previous clips, 30 years ago, you might have a half a dozen that would come that were political asylum seekers. But now it's anybody that might be in a war situation, or someone who's in difficulty because of work or similar. It's getting it's too much. It's not sustainable, as they say. And I would suggest we start thinking about having a central monetary fund that's the rich, this 30% or 10% of the world rich pay into, and others that want to pay into it voluntarily, that we start having those that are in these other countries or asylum seekers in difficulty, that an amount then is sent to their mobile phones through an account, and that we assist the world that's in poverty or in difficult that way. And that it's sent by Bitcoin, and then they change it into their own currency, so that there's some sort of income that's coming from the rich. I don't know. That's obviously quite something that needs to be thought through very well. But I think we need to go along these lines. But as I say, I do feel besieged as an English woman. That we're, what about England? Everybody's saying, England, do this, do that, do the other. Give us this, give us that, give us the other. Let us do this, do that, do the other. But you don't let me do what I want to do. Before I came to do these video clips, I was thinking, is somebody going to come and shoot me because I just speak a little bit or query with the Muslim faith? Or can I, for instance, the gay and lesbian situation, even that is out of control. It's a case well, I can't say anything. There's things that I want to say which I think are common sense, but we're not allowed to say. My free speech is gone now because of a minority group and the laws that are passed for them. So, what about the common sense view, the reasonable view, just to discuss these things? Because, maybe if I say something, the police are going to come and say you shouldn't say that, or somebody's going to complain, or somebody's going to get a gun to shoot me. What does one do? Where is our free speech going? And I think, let England live too, or do you want to squeeze the air of life out of us as well? And then everything will be yours. And then you might find that the terrorists have control at the end of the day.